Welcome into the NESN Digital Studios. Courtney Cox here for Bruins Now. And big news for the Bruins this week as they lose Patrice Bergeron to a fractured foot that he suffered in the 4-3 loss to Toronto. As soon as the news broke, we had cameras there to hear from Bergeron himself.
Yeah, it's very disappointing to say the least. I mean, yeah, it was tough news to hear a lot. You never want to step away from it, and you want to be part of it. Feel like you're contributing, and it's tough to. It's going to be tough tonight to be on the sideline and not be able to be out there with the guys. I mean, definitely have 2 weeks to. There's not much I can do, and I guess patience is the key word right now. So and heal quickly, and lots of prayers. So that's what's going on right now.
Well, with Patrice out, they have to fill the void, right? Well, lucky for the Bruins, they made a huge move right at the trade deadline, getting Rick Nash from the New York Rangers. Yes, year after year, we have talked about it, and it finally happened. Nash scored his first goal as a Bruin against the Hurricanes on Tuesday night, and he talked about it after.
You know, it's whenever you start with a new team or a fresh season, you always want to get that first one out of the way. It always seems like the hardest one to get. Definitely some good chemistry there. I thought the first game we spent the whole game in the other team's zone, and tonight I thought 2 periods were good. Second period we kind of turned it over a bit, but it's been good, and I feel like we can only get better.
Now welcome into the NESN Digital Studio at NESN.com writer, our Bruins analyst, Mike Cole. Mike, a lot of people talking about this Rick Nash trade. It seems like the Bruins gave up a lot, but for us kind of in the office, it doesn't seem that bad. It seems like it was worth it.
Yeah, it was definitely worth it. I think the Bruins have done a terrific job of kind of building up their farm system, stockpiling young assets for moves like this, where, yeah, Rick Nash is a pending free agent. Yeah, on paper they gave up a lot in terms of quantity. Like, there's a lot of assets that they gave up. But you look at the first round pick. This is a team that probably is going to be drafting at the end of the first round. Ryan Spooner's a guy who has shown the utmost of his potential at times, but a little bit inconsistent over the course of his career. And they didn't have to give up the cream of the crop in terms of their prospects. I think with the benefit of hindsight through 2 games, especially. It looks like it's been a good deal so far. I think this is the kind of player that they were, targeting. A guy with veteran leadership, a guy with size, and a strong winger. So they checked off a lot of boxes in terms of what they needed at the deadline by acquiring him. And to get a player like Rick Nash, who's scored 40 goals, I think 3 times in his career, he's like, a 5-6-time All-Star. You're going to have to give up something to get something. And, I think the price was right. It's a good deal for both teams. I think that's kind of what you're looking for. So, and like I said, the early results look pretty good.
Well, those 2 games, the first game against the Sabres, that loss, he had 5 shots on goal.
Yep.
Then he got his first goal as a Bruin against the Hurricanes. Him sliding in nicely with this Patrice Bergeron injury.
Yep.
How big is that injury, and how much do we need now Rick Nash to fill that void?
I think it's, in some ways, it's a little bit of apples and oranges because, I think you look at Nash, he was probably not, he wasn't brought in here to kind of play that role anyway. I think he's just is a guy who's going to, improve the depth of what you have. And he's a guy who slides in really nicely next to David Krejci. I think when Krejci's been at his best throughout his career, it's when he's had, big, aggressive, highly skilled wingers. I mean, obviously that goes for pretty much any center. But, maybe what he's able to do for David Krejci down the stretch kind of helps alleviate the pain of losing Bergeron. He's just, it's never bad to have more good players. And I think that's going to be even more appropriate. It's going to show itself a little bit more without Bergeron. And like I said, guys are going to have to step up. He's a guy who's kind of been relied upon in certain situations throughout his career to be one of the guys, to be the man. And I think he's got an opportunity to do that here, especially without Bergeron. And he's been great so far through the 2 games he's been here. He's made an impact not only just scoring, but you talk about the game in Buffalo. 5 shots. I mean, he rung the post 1 time too. He's been, it seems like every time he steps on the ice, he's doing something good, and you need those kind of contributions from everybody when you're trying to fill in a hole like Bergeron leaves.
Nash wasn't the only acquisition for the Bruins during this trade deadline. Anybody else that really stands out to you when you look at this new Bruins squad?
Tommy Wingels, obviously, first impressions are great on Tuesday night against Carolina. This is a guy who Sweeney talked about. He's a player who does a lot of different things. He's a guy who's got some veteran experience. He's been around the block a few times. He stepped right in and filled a position admirably, kind of coming in late. He wasn't at morning skate on Tuesday and stepped right in and played a great game. I mean, it was him and Nash who are their two best players probably Tuesday night against Carolina. So you get anything out of him, especially in the wake of losing Bergeron, that's huge. So I think Wingels, at least through one game, we're looking at 62 minutes of action. He's been the guy besides Nash. It's you look at Holden. I think maybe he's a guy he's just a depth guy. Same thing with Giantu, who wasn't a trade but a signing. A lot of guys, it's going to be the sum of the parts more so than anything else, because this is a team that kind of got dinged up as the season concluded last year into the playoffs. They made it a clear initiative that they wanted to have depth going into the playoffs this year.
All right, great stuff from Mike. As always, you can follow along with him on Twitter at Mike Cole Nesson. But on to something cool that the Bruins are doing right now. Matt Grzelcyk there seems to be playing a video game, and a special edition tee that you can buy to honor those who serve our country. The tweet says last year they raised over $42K. Well done, Bees. Let's hope that they do it again. And for a glance at the social media scene around the rest of the sports world, here's Casey's Social Drive, presented by Nissan.
Time for your Nissan Social Drive, presented by your local Nissan dealers. Skiing pandas? Yep, it's for real. This is how South Korea says farewell to the Winter Games in this year's Olympic closing ceremony. I love it. But it begs the question, what will the next Winter Olympics in Beijing have in store? You gotta wait until 2022 to find out, unfortunately. And this is just incredible. Jose, who is deaf and blind, he's a soccer fan from Colombia. He's able to follow Barcelona games thanks to his friend Cesar and the sign language system that they devised together. You can also see the wooden board there. It serves as the pitch, and Cesar just moves his hands around the board so that, he knows where the action is. Again, absolutely incredible. Wipe away those tears, because this kid is beyond tough, so you need to be too. Wisconsin guard Brad Davison dislocated his shoulder, popped it back into place, and then finished the game with 30 points. The timeline, though, is even crazier. So under 14 minutes left in the game, shoulder pops out, 13:59 on the clock. The kid pops it back in and is back on the court 23 game seconds later. Just over 10 seconds after that, hits a jumper. Now his squad lost to Michigan State, 68-63, but he's forever a college hoops treasure. Hey, what did you do that was amazing today, huh? That's your Social Drive.
The Nissan Rogue has everything I need to take on today. Intelligent all-wheel drive when I need to follow the story or create my own path. Style, smarts, and storage. In the Nissan Rogue, I'm not just along for the ride, I'm driving. Shop the Rogue at your local Nissan store and choose Nissan.com. Innovation that excites.
And watch me, Casey McDonald, with your Nissan Social Drive nightly on Nesson Sports Today.
Thanks so much, Casey. And the Bruins had social media buzzing on Tuesday night in the 4-3 win in overtime against the Hurricanes. Yes, we talked about Rick Nash getting his first goal as a Bruin, but he wasn't alone in scoring. Another acquisition for the Bruins, yep, that would be Tommy Wingels. He scored Tuesday night as well. The Bruins have the best record in the NHL over the last 3 months, but are 4-4 in the last 8. Riley Nash slid into Bergeron's spot nicely in between David Pastrnak and Brad Marchand, and it was Charlie McAvoy who got the winner in OT. We heard from him after the game.
Great play in the corner to win a battle by Nash. There are two guys in there, and he comes out with the puck. So throws it to the middle, and trying to just take off and get going there. Saw that we had a 2-on-1 if we hurried up, and looks like he took away Marshy. I was looking past a little bit, trying to look that off, and then kind of just read it and thought I needed to get it off quick, and fortunate enough to see it go in.
And if you were a fan at the TD Garden on Tuesday night witnessing Charlie McAvoy's OT game winner, you will be excited because our Bees are home for a bit of a stretch. They kick off the month of March on Thursday at home against the defending Stanley Cup champs, the Penguins, followed by the Canadiens on Saturday the 3rd. The Red Wings come into town on Tuesday the 6th, the Flyers on the 8th, Blackhawks on the 10th, and then both those squads will fly to Chicago for a rematch the very next day on the 11th in the Windy City. Maybe they can share a plane. Can you imagine that? All right, so the trade deadline, we've talked about it a lot. It's finally over. It ended February 26th at 3 p.m. Eastern time, and we've covered basically everything we can about what the Bruins did for that. But there were some other teams that made some pretty big moves as well. It was the fewest number of trades in the last 6 seasons. And although it was the fewest amount of trades, plenty of big names still moved around the league in this pretty active deadline. As you can see, Tampa Bay kind of made the biggest impact. Ryan McDonough and JT Miller now headed down south to play for them. As you can see, Pittsburgh gets Derek Brassard. If you're a Brassard fan, this is his 3rd team in 3 seasons, so hopefully he's finding a home in the Steel City. But that will do it for this episode of Bruins Now. Thanks so much for tuning in. I'm Courtney Cox. Follow along on NESN for all your Bruins coverage and keep it locked in, NESN.com. We've got everything you need to know during this NHL season.